Hey everybody, it's Mike from Monkey Fab. We've got the Mustang in here, the T-top 4i Coopy guy. So I'm gonna try to do front to back. Bear with me. What are we doing? We're doing the plumbing and the wiring on it. The plumbing's pretty well done. Everything's where it is. Our hoses, we ordered those up. My buddy made them. I just got to go pick them up. Are right here. So if you're wondering like what kind of hoses it take to get from a stock gas tank through a fuel rail and back, you could use those measurements right there. Take a screenshot or whatever, and that gets us from our fuel tanks to our shutoff valves through all of our little doodads to the rail to the fuel pressure regulator back to a shutoff valve to the tank, right? So that plumbing's done. Still got to kind of figure out the transcore. Yeah, and we got our fans wired. All this is wired. So the front, what I would consider the front, which I will call the firewall forward, I do believe is wired. I'm claiming no ownership of the headlights. I don't know what happened to any of the body lights and stuff. And I'll be honest, I'm gonna dip into them as lightly as I have to, and just hope, when Pete gets done wiring that stuff up, it magically works. If not, I'll be happy to help him out and figure out what we got going on, or just wire it all up from scratch. I don't care. No big deal. But all this is wired up now. For here, we got our boost solenoids, our map sensors, O2, yada, yada, yada. All that's good. We're trying to get the main power up here now. We have no room for a battery up here. So I found this little plate that my friend made to kind of cover up all this stuff. And while I'm looking, I noticed the hole on the back side of that was about perfect for these bulkhead guys, which I do like if you have to go through a bulkhead. Yeah, then I don't like to cut holes in fancy cars that are probably worth more than me. So I just clip the corner out, just edge that, and we're just going to use that. And the rest of the stuff will get cleaned up, seam sealed, and we'll rivet it back on. Then we got this guy right here. You guys see that little rubber guy right now, painted white. We're gonna use that for our starter solenoid. So that's pretty cool. We got everything. It's not even, it looks like it's horrible and sticking out, but I assure you it's down there. And right here is just a plug for this. Our fuel pressure regulator goes out the bottom at a 45. So we're not really close to anything over there, and it's easy enough to get to. And it is literally a straight shot right down through there to our starter. See our cam sensor wire down there and our O2 sensor wire, but the starter's over here. So yeah, so we got to get power up here, and that's what we've been working on. The middle car unfinished. I say the best I've done is started messing with transmission, figuring out the park neutral safety, some of the body wires up in here that I need, figure out. But still sorting through how I'm going to make all that happen. I just figure if I can get everything up into there, then I can sort through it. So the back is where our battery is, and it's not really moved. We filled all the holes that were back here in the trunk, and we got creative with some of the holes. There was a rivet in there, and I just ran a long bolt up through it, this guy right here, and Loctite it in place. So I'll use that as a stud now. And then this guy right here, which was the same rivet, I just drilled through and welded in a nice stainless steel stud. Same thing we did over here, which is our grounds for our battery. Our fuel pump wiring is coming through here. We got a connector for primary and the secondary, and one for fuel level. And then we got all the wires. This is all pre-cut to run down this body panel here, up through that, what do we call this, Mike? There's a word for this, but I can't think of it. This like striker panel, I guess, rail, whatever you want to call it. And then up to our stud, which will be on the back right there. And then it'll get to some sort of fuse box. I'm kind of playing around with something like this, maybe on some ABS up underneath here. I don't know, we'll figure it out. But we got the stud for our main power. That's the important thing. And then we know, because we're using, well, you don't know, so let me tell you, we're using this contactor. So this is my back setup here, and it's got this stud right here. So the main power, our big thick 2 gauge there will go to this side of the contactor, and our alternator will go to this side of the contactor. And then we have a contactor trigger that will go to a switch, an on-off switch. Yeah, that will be able to turn the car off from the front seat if he wants to. And we have provisions that we can wire in. If he wants to drill a hole and do one for the back, we could do that as well. Yeah, so that just has a breaker, our contactor. We got a relay with some extra fuses in here. I took out all the, so that I don't really mind these Chinese. They're actually pretty decently made. These Chinese fuse box guys that are relatively cheap. They just use this like, I think it's called like a PTFE type wire, which the wire is fine. It's just really fat. The sheathing on it, and it's a mess. So I just depend everything, and if we need more fuses, we'll put that in there. We're going to use the 80 amp for our primary, like that, and use a solid state relay 40 amp for our secondary. It's going to pulse width modulate, and the second pump just keeps it from fuel spiking. You kick it on at like 60% and wrap it to 100% within like a half second. They're not made to pulse width, those fuel pumps, so it just keeps it from spiking. That's all that does. So that's our contactor, our what do you call this, breaker, and our little system. I got an extra one over here, and that's what I was sorting through. So I have to figure out how to run our backup cam, which was usually really simple. You just tap into the reverse lights and they power on, and then when you drop your car in reverse, your radio puts on the backup cam, which I really like. I'm a big fan of these. You know, I think for 70 bucks, it's hard. It's kind of hard to beat it. But while I was researching what to tap into and whatever, I found some little smart ass on the internet said, well, I made mine a switch so I can use it whenever I want. And then that made me mad because that sounded better than what I had done. So I figured I'm going to one-up him because I'm a one-upper. It's just how I roll. And I'm going to add a position switch. So, because I'm sure the guy, I wouldn't want to have to switch a switch every time I wanted to use a backup cam. I just want it to work like it's supposed to. So I'm going to add a 3-way switch so we can switch it on or just put it in normal mode. And that way he can look through it, whatever. But I had to do all this thinking and whatnot, which led me to, trying to find these and the backup lights, the reverse lights. I keep calling these brake lights for some reason. If I misspeak, forgive me. My mouth lags behind. I'm just going to leave these guys how they are. They're not really hooked up to anything. The cable for the transmission had been cut on either side, and I really haven't been able to find the other side of it. It's a lot of digging I honestly don't want to do, and it's not really going to hurt anything. I'll just make sure there's no power going to them, which I don't think there would be, and just leave them there. And I'll buy the same, and I'm just going to run my own. I'm just going to use this guy for a relay to power our reverse lights. So that way we can have reverse lights that'll work when we put the thing in reverse. And we'll put another relay up here that will do just the camera. So that won't make sense to anybody, well, least of all me, but it's written down and I got it. So that is how we're doing all this. I thought this is just how this is my first time really doing anything like this. So just trying to make it easy, accessible, easy to work on. And I'm pretty happy with how everything's turning out so far. Once we get all that stuff into here and we get everything kind of puked up to the center, then we'll have to figure out, how to make the Ford bits speak with the Fuel Tech bits and all the extra bits, the Chevy bits and stuff we added, get it all talking, working together. That's where I'm at. I think I covered everything. Yeah, so until next week, this is Michael Monkey Fab signing out.